Tom, when we met in pre-production, you said the staffing industry isn't just in a slump, it's in the heart of a perfect storm. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, it's a great thought. And I'm thinking about all of the threats that are descending upon the staffing industry right now, all at the same time. And when we think about threats, those are external things that are descending upon the staffing industry. So, for example, everything that's happened with immigration. If you're in construction, hospitality, light industrial staffing, the somewhere between 10 and 12 million immigrants that came into the country definitely is affecting those staffing companies. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. So when we think about nearshoring and offshoring we've been doing for a while, but a lot of companies, a lot of the clients of staffing companies are offshoring, nearshoring, building nearshore teams that's taking away from staffing companies. We think about the whole rise of the independent contractor. When you look at the Upworks of the world, those companies are continuing to grow and grow and grow, while the staffing industry is continuing. The penetration rate is continuing to decline. And Brad, I just want to say that 2.5-3 years ago, the staffing industry, if you look back 50 years, the GDP and staffing industry, what was going on, those two, the GDP was the most accurate economic indicator that predicted what was going to happen or what was happening in the staffing industry. About 2.5-3 years ago, those two separated from one another. The GDP did just fine, and the staffing industry continued to decline. And so people like myself will look at that and they'll ask the question, why is that happening? And I started look, what are the outside external things that are affecting the industry that, and those are some of them. By the way, what I didn't mention, and also external, but manufacturing automation, where one robot replaces 15 jobs. Buying preferences of the buyers, buying preferences of the candidates. We see that candidates now, they'd rather talk to a bot, an AI agent, and will stay on the line with an AI agent longer than they would with a recruiter. Of course, the VMS continues. We read the statistics. VMS continues to go up and up and up. So these are. Oh, did I mention wage inflation?
I'll tell you what you didn't mention. You didn't even mention AI.
Well,
he's leaving that for me.
Yeah, the buzzword in the room, right?
Yeah, I know. My gosh, guys, like all of this stuff is descending on the staffing industry, and it's forcing a transformation. It's dragging the staffing industry to a transformation. These are all external. We can see them as external threats, or we can see them as opportunities. And here's the reason why I was emailing David is because a lot of my clients, a lot of your clients are out there saying, oh, we need to go buy sales training, or, oh, we need to upgrade our sales department, or, you're not going to solve this problem by buying sales training. Not going to happen. It's a waste of your money. But anyway, so that's when it's a perfect storm. That's what I mean. That you have all of these external factors that are making a radical change, shifting the ground from underneath our feet. And a lot of these guys are lost. A lot of these business owners are lost.
David, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything that Tom's saying. And I just, to add to the mix, when we were at the executive forum this year, Barry Asen was trying to answer the same question Tom's talking about, like, why did this decoupling happen? And one of the things that he said, and it made intuitive sense, is that we've had a long period of low unemployment, which means finding good workers is hard. So now as the employer side, they're saying, well, I'm sick and tired of dealing with unreliable labor. And what they're doing is, instead of using staffing to fill in the peaks and valleys in their workforce needs, they're hiring permanent workers at a higher level. So they may have a little more excess capacity when they're slow, but they want to keep the good people working for them. So they're more likely to be doing their own direct hiring than supplementing with temporary labor. And then you did mention, the elephant in the room, which is the AI stuff. So not as much yet in blue collar jobs, but we're already seeing it in white collar jobs that the AI can do the work. Today, SIA shared a list of the biggest technology concerns of staffing companies. And number one on the list is, what AI tools do I need? When the AI or an agentic AI can be responsible for taking the job order, sourcing candidates, conducting initial screening, doing other types of testing, actually running an interview, scheduling. I mean, what are you left with that's the recruiter's role? It's a really tough situation if you're in staffing, or if you're the HR departments and your managers are saying, drive efficiency, and you're going, hey, I can automate our recruiting function. I may not need outside vendors. It makes it a very tough place for our industry to prove its value.
Is this the end of staffing then?
No.
And in fact, David is telling where the puck is going. And so if I have a staffing company, I'm going to become an expert in what he's talking about in the whole human capital acquisition strategy. And then I'm going to go to my clients to say, let us help you set this strategy up. If you're a staffing company, you have to assume that your clients know less than you do about how to put AI together and how to use AI. That's the disposition that you have to take. You have to become these human capital acquisition consultants, professionals, experts. And look, the human resource department, this is not going to change. Their jobs are going to change because of AI, certainly. But they're still going to have to deal with benefits and healthcare and all these other employee satisfaction surveys and all that stuff. Recruiting is still going to be somewhere on a list of 20 things that the HR director has got to do. I mean, work is going to change. We're still going to have work. We're still going to have jobs. There's still going to be hiring going on. So what David is talking about is this is where it's going for staffing. And if you're not an expert in this and can't consult with your clients with this, which by the way, which is why the transactional sales stuff is becoming so ineffective.
Tom, I want to build on that because that's use the exact words I was about to use. Is if your business is transactional staffing, get a job order, fill a job order, your days are honestly going to be numbered. Right. But if you can step up and say, well, I really am an expert at workforce planning, that higher order thinking, the AI is not very good at connecting those dots yet. It can do the transactional stuff day in and day out better than we can. It has more knowledge. But that higher level thinking, it's not there yet. I was listening to a podcast this morning from the Marketing AI Institute, and that's exactly what they're telling people is focus on the strategic thinking. So what is the workforce plan that the employer needs? What are all the different ways they need to staff the jobs? What's going to be temps? What's going to be nearshore? What's going to be offshore? What's going to be full-time hires? How do they plan for seasonality? As Tom said, HR is getting cut. So they've still got all the things they need to do and less resources to do it. So a staffing company that moves up to a higher value proposition is going to have tons of opportunity. And the other thing they said in that podcast is humans have real empathy. Machines can simulate it. AI can fool you to think it's empathetic, but it's not. So the staffing company that can really understand the challenges of HR, the challenges of the hiring manager, the challenges of the employee, that role of the recruiter is not going away.
Yeah, I had Declan Edwards on the show a little while ago, and I think his episode will drop before this one. He's a happiness researcher, and he said we're shifting from work of the head and work of the mind to work of the heart. And I think in a world where AI can outperform in terms of the tactical, what do you know, in work from the head, we have to move sort of this work from the heart mentality where it is putting great people to work in a great opportunity in being sort of that career agent, being that person behind the scenes that can work the relationship better than the machines can. Guys, I want to ask you this. you see the rains coming before the storm comes, right? Whether you're looking out over the water, you can see the storm clouds coming in. You know when it's going to get lousy before it actually hits landfall. Why haven't more people been talking about this? Why is this perfect storm now upon us? Why hadn't we seen it coming? Or if we have, again, why hasn't this been more of a conversation?
Yeah. I mean, look, the industry historically has always been resistant to change. I mean, let's go back 25 years ago when the whole ATS model came out, and gosh, I can get rid of my servers, and I can get rid of my databases, and I can get rid of backup tapes, and all I need is a desktop, and I can work anywhere in the world. Oh my gosh! I mean, how long did it take for the industry to finally? Oh, they were so fear based, and oh my gosh, somebody's going to steal. You mean somebody's got access to my database? So and that's just one example. I mean, we could have 50 examples. The industry, I find the industry very resistant to change. Somewhat fear based. And look, I still talk to a lot. I still hear a lot of executives say, "Oh, staffing's going to come back. Oh, staffing's going to come back. Oh, we just need to wait it out a little bit longer, and staffing's going to." That head in the sand, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of folks in the industry that are not thinking strategically, thinking only tactically, thinking this is a storm we just have to wait this storm out. I think, and why we haven't been talking about this longer, why this hasn't been being talked, Brad, that's a great question. Why are the national associations not publishing about this stuff, talking about this stuff? I mean, David, you talk about one variable. Well, companies are hanging on to people longer. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? These are Brad. The perfect storm is the fact that you got 7, 8, 9 external variables that are negatively affecting the staffing industry. You can't solve this problem at the same level that we've been trying to solve it in the past. It's not a waiting game anymore. This is not a wait the storm out. There's significant changes going on in our industry.
So I love the perfect timing of this conversation because, Brad, you said dark clouds over the water. I'm looking out a window. I'm looking at water, and there's literally a thunderstorm rolling in where I am right now. So if I suddenly disappear, it's because there's thunder and lightning that may knock out my power. But why are the conversations not happening? I think it depends on the room that you're in. I think if you're in the strategy room at some of the very large global players, they've absolutely been having these conversations. That's why you see, and I forgot who it was, it might have been Adecco, somebody who's partnering with Salesforce to build agentic recruiting into their platforms. They're ahead of the game. I think for the small to mid-sized staffing company, they're looking and going, we just went through 5 years of digital transformation. Then we had COVID. Then we had these candidate shortages and we couldn't find reliable workers. Then all of a sudden demand fell off a cliff from our clients. There's just so many things to be dealing with that AI is just one more thing in the mix. And it's hard to figure out what's truth and what's fiction because there's so many people claiming AI and agents and things that aren't really delivering. But at the same time, you have to find the time to back up and say, Tom, I love that you said, we're talking about where the puck is going. And the puck is definitely going to somewhere it has not been before. And our industry is going to look different in 2 to 3 years than it looks today.
Yeah, I mean it's the even the sectors of the industry, the RPO, the PEO, the employer of record, like all those sectors of the industry are poised for some significant growth. Why? Because a lot of these states are passing laws, and look, they just don't want to deal with all that human resource record keeping and the headaches and problems and. What problem can we solve for our clients? And it's not just a 13-week assignment or a 2-week assignment. It's much more. But by the way, the project work, I've got a client that's north of $1 billion in revenue. They do both staff augmentation and EOR. And the president of that organization told me not too long ago that the EOR business, the people that are doing, the companies that are doing project type work, they're growing. The people that they're supporting that are the staff augmentation, W-2 hourly staff aug, they're shrinking. I look at the buying. We haven't even talked. The buying preferences of the buyers,
right.
Preferences of the buyers. That is changing on the candidate side and on the buy side.
Hey, it's Brad taking a short break to tell you about my friends over at Tricom. What if your back office fueled your growth instead of holding it back? Tricom makes it happen. From payroll and billing to accounting and asset-based lending, Tricom clears the roadblocks, empowers your path forward. Your team gets paid, your cash flow stays steady, and your business scales like never before. Tricom doesn't just support you, they set you up to soar. To learn more about my friends over at Tricom, visit tricom.com. That's TRICOM.com. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah.
So last week I was in Boston for year 2 of my entrepreneurial master's program. And one of the speakers was talking about these changes. And he said, to find opportunity, there's 2 things you really need to look at. Number one is for whatever you sell, the product, the service, that's not actually what your client is buying. So he said, you need to look at what is the job to be done. I'm providing the tool that gets the job done, but I really need to understand the job to be done. So it's the goods getting shipped. It's the project being finished. It may be the ownership of the headache of managing a workforce that's multi-state or multi-nation. That's the job to be done. And the other thing that they mentioned was a very famous Jeff Bezos quote, which is, don't look at what's going to change in the next 3 to 5 years. Look at what's not going to change. And focus on things that are going to be truisms and how do you add value to those truisms. So he used the example for Amazon. He said, at no time in the future can I envision a situation in which people want to pay more for goods and services. So I can focus on constantly, how do I deliver it for less? And I'm always going to win.
What does that look like for staffing and recruiting?
So what's the job to be done? The job to be done depends on the type of organization you sell to. If I'm in healthcare staffing, there's a patient care job to be done, and models for patient care are changing. You're seeing more telehealth. Okay, how does that impact where I recruit talent and how I supply talent? You're seeing shortages because of more nurses leaving the profession. How does that impact the recruiting function? How does that impact training? How does that impact finding alternative ways to deliver medicine? If I'm a healthcare staffing company, I need to really immerse myself in the changes in healthcare delivery to figure out where the talent needs are so I can help my clients plan and prepare. And then I also know that if I'm in healthcare, they kind of hate me because they view me as the scapegoat for why their costs went up. So now I have to be a partner in helping them drive costs out of their organization by making labor as a percentage of healthcare revenue decline. Sometimes that's not by cutting costs. Sometimes that's actually by hiring more people. So you increase the throughput of the organization. But you have to really be close to your healthcare client to know that. And in every industry, the more you know about how the industry functions, the more you can find opportunity.
Yeah, Mark Winter, a friend of the program, he said, no one needs a half-inch drill bit, they need a half-inch hole. And that's a quote that I've used on this show dozens of times, right? It's thinking about the end result. What are you actually trying to accomplish from that hole, right? What do you need it to be done? What do you need it to do? And I think in a lot of ways, we're stuck in that transactional mindset, right? We're putting someone to work in a great opportunity. We're looking at the transaction of that. We're not looking down the line into what that actually looks like for our clients. Tom, when we think about, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was thinking, with the growth of the nearshore, I mean, think about that as an opportunity in the staffing industry where a staffing company can become experts in helping their clients either set up offshore centers, manage offshore centers, or where they have a sizable offshore center that is doing certain kind of work for the client. So again, I mean, this is David's, thought about that. We're going to deliver a service to you and help you drop your payroll cost by having it in another country.
Guys, we've kind of danced around it a little bit. If you're the owner of a small to mid-sized staffing firm right now, I want to put you in that mindset. Where are you getting started? So if we're in the middle of this perfect storm and we can accept that, yes, we are in the middle or the heart of this perfect storm, there's a lot to be done, right? There are a lot of internal and external forces at play. Where are you getting started, though, to break that down into something that's actually manageable into an action item?
Yeah, I just think you have to become hyper-focused, super hyper-focused on a particular buyer, a particular service, and think not real locally, but then how can you take that hyper-focus across a couple of different industries, throughout the United States. I mean, more and more and more, I'm picking up clients that, hey, we do this one thing, or these handful of skill sets, and we do it across the United States. So I really think that that folks, that small to mid-size, number one. Number one, you first off, you got to have a technology stack that's going to help your people be efficient and effective and and all that. So what used to be like, wow, would be great to have, they're sort of table stakes now. So first thing, get your house in order in terms of technology and ATS and websites and all that, and automated marketing and all that stuff. And then the hyper focus on a particular solution that you can take nationally. If I were running a 10 or 5, gosh, I'd like, my gosh, 5 million. Is that a business? 3 million in revenue?
You're showing your bias, Tom.
I know. Yeah. What do they call that? I forget. Anyway, anyway, it's small business.
David,
so Brad, if I can jump in, if I was the owner of a small to mid-sized staffing company, probably the first thing I'd want to do is whatever client would let me sit down with them and talk to them about what are their strategic plans. How do they envision growth in their own market? Where do they see the challenges? Then looking at, okay, what are their talent strategies? How do they see that changing? Is it going to be hiring? Is it going to be nearshore, offshore? Is it going to be AI agents? What kind of mix? I want to understand what they see as their biggest gaps. So where do they anticipate they're going to have the most trouble? Maybe it's just recruiting. Maybe it's screening the talent. Maybe, as Tom mentioned, it's we need somebody who's really the employer of record because we don't want that responsibility anymore. But I would try to get as close as I could to target customers. And I'm just going to echo what Tom said, and then figure out where I can focus and I can beat the pants off of everybody else. I would use AI thoroughly to help me with that research, to look at what the opportunities are to better serve clients, to brainstorm different ways to provide service delivery. And I would almost sit in front of a whiteboard and say, if I threw out everything I knew about how staffing companies traditionally operate, and I wanted to help my clients solve problems in new ways, what could I do? And I think that's where things like statement of work come in play. That's where on-sites come in play. Maybe that's where more staffing outsourcing. We're going to manage this function for companies because we know nobody wants to do it. But it's going to be broader than just temp help. So I would get close to clients as my key to making change happen.
Yeah, and part of that, David, you could develop partnerships, correct? You could. So if I don't want to start an EOR, I could partner with an EOR. Or if I didn't want to become a nearshore expert, I could find companies to partner with, and then have some kind of a split margin or some kind of agreement.
Tom, I just talked to a friend who runs basically a nearshore company out of Mexico. He was at this program with me last week, and he's looking to reach out to U.S.-based companies that want to partner with him because they have clients who need, in his case, very high-level marketing talent. So if you're selling to a corporation and they need those Fortune 500 caliber resources, he finds them in Mexico.
Yeah, right. So so even a small company can develop a very powerful partner network that they can take to their clients. And then once you get a couple of those projects, you case study it, off you go.
Yeah, I think it changes the shift of what I'm hearing a lot lately, which is a lot of staffing firms are trying to take any order they can get, right? We're desperate for orders. So we're trying to do the opposite of niche down, which is just sort of grasp at straws and take any order we can. And I agree with you guys. The more focused we can be, the more specialized we can be, the better. It just takes a lot of courage to say, listen, this is where we're headed. This is the other side of that storm, and here's how we're going to get through it. And I'm thinking about that small to mid-sized staffing leader who has to get in front of their team and say, listen, here's the direction we're headed in. Who's with me? And I'm interested to hear your thoughts of what that conversation might look like.
Well, first off, you have to build a case for change.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people like me, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to follow me anywhere. Yeah, I mean, yeah. What is it, John Cotter's? Gosh, what was that? What was that book, Dave? Leading Change by John Cotter is a great, fantastic read. But he talks about building a case for change, communicating the vision times 10, building a vision, communicating vision by 10. Those are the kinds of conversations you have to. If you're a leader of an organization, you have to show people the future. Well, first off, like you have to intuit and believe that this is the future. A number one, and then secondly, you have to be able to show people that okay, we've got that hill over there, and here's the steps that we're going to take to get that hill. So those are, and then there's maybe some basic planning and action planning and things like that, and benchmarks and measurements, and to show how the company is moving forward in that direction. But yeah, it's more of a I see it more of a leadership characteristic trait than anything, Brad.
David, anything to add there?
Yeah, so I've read a couple of blogs that were talking about the number one skill in the era we live in right now is adaptability. So I guess I would take a hard look at my team. I would look in the mirror at myself first and say, am I willing to adapt? Am I able to keep up with this breakneck pace of change? Because we are, it's almost a cliche to say we're living in unprecedented times. But if you go back in time and you look at changes, like when we went from an agricultural society to an industrial society, well, that was about over 70 years. And we went from an industrial society to a computerized society. That was over 50 years. Then we went to the internet, and that was 30 years. Then we went to mobile, and that was less than 20 years. AI's been around for 30 years, but for most of us, we never really heard much about AI till 2 years ago. When ChatGPT burst onto the scene, and it's changed everyone's world since. So we don't have as much time, which is why adaptability is so important. So if I have a team that's capable of adapting, then I love what Tom said. I need to create a vision. That's the hill that we're going to go take. This is what's at the top of the hill. This is how we get there. And you have to create that compelling vision and have people who are 100% bought in to taking that hill with you. And if they're not, if they're running up the other hill because they think that's the way, then you need to let them free to run up that other hill because they're going to hold you back from your vision.
On somebody else's payroll.
Yes.
Tom, anything you want to add there?
No, just that it's challenging. I would, David, I don't know if you hear this when you're talking to your clients, but the whole tech fatigue, I talk to so many you just hear it in their voices that I've had people say to me, I just have not had any fun in this industry. Well, they just said, I haven't had any fun in the last 3 years. We are not having fun anymore. I mean, it's really becoming, and I think part of that we're not having fun anymore is that the challenges just keep coming and coming and coming. And then the other thing that I keep hearing is the whole tech fatigue, where just please don't tell me about
just one more tool, Tom. Just one more tool.
AI agent, gosh, I don't want to go to a conference and hear some sales guy tell me that if I don't adopt this technology, I'm going to be out of business in 3 years. I mean, please don't tell me. So I just feel like all of that stuff is really weighing on. And look, the people that own staffing businesses, they tend to be sales folks. They tend to be people. So this is kind of a sit down, think this through. you know, a little bit of a challenge for them.
Hey, it's Brad taking a short break to tell you about an offer exclusive to listeners of Take the Stage. 30 minutes of strategic marketing consultation with me, completely free. Hey, whether you're looking to drive more sales or more job applications, I want to help. Visit bit.ly/stage offer. Pick a time that works best for you. That's it. Again, whether you want to drive more applications or more job orders, I want to help. That's bit.ly/stage offer. All right, let's get back to the show.
David, where does marketing come into play on this? So I rarely have you on this show to talk from a marketing standpoint. So I want to bring your insights to our listeners here. When you think about how, yes, let's again, accept the fact for sake of this conversation, we are in the heart of a perfect storm. What does marketing look like in this type of environment for the small to mid-sized staffing firm?
Yeah. So for a lot of companies, they've looked at marketing as, how do I get my name out there? How do I create awareness? How do I stay top of mind? And that's a good value of marketing. When you're selling in the transactional, more commoditized part of the industry, it's about, hey, I have to get myself recognized. I have to build some trust and credibility. I have to give people an initial reason to talk to me. Now, that doesn't go away if you're selling, I fill job orders. If you start trying to move up the value chain and you say, well, I'm really going to come in and help you think through your workforce strategy. I'm going to come and help you think through how to manage your staffing function differently. Now you're moving over to more educational marketing. So now I have to teach people the value proposition. I won't even call myself a staffing company. The value proposition of a workforce solutions firm is X. Let me teach you about what a workforce solution firm does. Let me teach you about why that function is needed in your business, and your poor HR team doesn't have the time or financial support to do it on their own. So I'm going to be your free expert at giving away information, much like Brad, you do it with sharing information on a podcast. You do it with a webinar. You do it with speaking. You need to get out as an evangelist in front of your target audience, showing them, here's what the future can look like for your organization from a staffing, recruiting, and workforce management perspective. That's at the top of the funnel. Then once you get people interested in you, you have to really arm your salespeople with training and with resources so they can explain these concepts and make it very easy to understand. This is the 1/4-inch hole that we're the drill to help you drill. But I think a lot of them right now want to say, we're the staffing company and here's why we're wonderful and here's our reviews and here's our net promoter score. And that's all well and good when everyone's hiring. But when they're not hiring, we need to change that message.
Yeah, the Brad, my clients that are actually growing, and there's valid and reliable statistics from multiple organizations that show organizations where the marketing function and the sales function are aligned with one another and are working together with one another, not just in terms of marketing in a traditional sense of the word marketing, but in terms of the whole buyer persona, the buyer journey, the buyer messaging, the cadence of the messaging, the usage of tools, automated marketing, and these other things, that the more that the sales and the marketing are aligned and communicating with one another, actually having similar goals with one another, that some of these organizations can double the productivity of their sales reps. It is a whole new day in terms of but clients of mine that are really succeeding and doing well, that they have much stronger alignment with marketing. First off, they understand that marketing in the old days has been redefined, and that the new marketing is involved in 100% of the sale. I mean, marketing is involved side by side in the whole sales methodology and the sales process. So it's become really a very, very important thing. And look, you've got salespeople. I mean, you still have staffing companies out there that are having these salespeople make 100 phone calls a day into a blind database. Kind of crazy when you think about it. But if you're not doing that groundwork, and David mentioned something earlier, I think that's super, super, super important. And that is, sitting down with your customers and ask and having like real conversations about their challenges, about their strategy, about their goals, and understanding what that is. That's all part of I think consultative selling versus tactical selling. And from a leadership perspective, gosh, I mean, just there's some words that you should just eliminate from the lexicon. There's just some words that you should just the more you can like leave those words out of the environment of your culture, the better off you're going to be. I mean, don't buy into the commodity thing. It's like if you're going to transition into like a firm that David's talking about, you have to adopt a new language. You have to, language, as Martin Heidegger said, language is the house of being. You have to adopt a new language. Anyway,
how do you propose we get that consulting conversation with a potential buyer, even if it's a current client or a prospective client? So I know right now it's very difficult to get a prospect to sit down for a conversation. A lot of calls that I'm a part of, people are getting shut down from the first call or the first in-mail if it's a prospect, all the way through the process. And even current customers just aren't hiring right now. So in a busy world where people have 1,000 things to do this afternoon, I agree we need to have those deeper conversations. But for the person listening right now saying, yes, I want to be doing that, how do you propose they actually get somebody to sit down for a 30-minute cup of coffee to talk about their business needs and their challenges?
Yeah, I mean, it's David. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I mean, gosh, you've got to give them a reason to meet with you. There's got to be a case study. There's got to be some information. There's got to be something that is a compelling message for a decision maker to sit down and want to meet. And you have to be able to present yourself not as just think about yourself in the minds of the buyers of all these things we hear about a staffing company, a body shop, whatever. I mean, it's like you have to think, okay, this individual is going to see XYZ staffing. They're going to think I'm a body shop. So my messaging has got to be, and I've got to give them a reason to meet with me. I've got to show them. I've got to have something. I've got to. By the way, another fantastic read. I don't know if you guys have read this, but The Human Element. Have either of you guys read that yet?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, man, put it on your list. Because Brad, what The Human Element talks about are the frictions. So what are the friction points of why somebody won't meet with me, and then removing those friction points. And that's the method there.
Yeah. And so first thing I would say is if I want someone to sit down with me, if it's an existing client, it's not as big a deal. I'm going to call my trusted contacts at that organization and ask to start sitting down with them and figure out then who else in that company can I talk to. If it's in HR, I may need to go to department heads. I may need to go to the bosses of department heads. I want to see where they'll allow me to have that conversation. But if I'm going into a prospect, I have to differentiate my outreach, because if the first time the buyer hears it's David from a staffing company, they go, I know what David from a staffing company does. I don't need one. Yeah. But if I can do something that disrupts their routine, that's how I get their attention. But the next thing I need to do, and I love the analogy of, thinking that you're driving down a divided highway, and let's say I'm going northbound, but there's an accident over in the southbound lanes, yet my lanes back up because everybody stops to look. So you need to think about what's going to cause my prospect to rubberneck. What can't they avoid looking at? And that's not going to be staffing. It's going to be some problem that's in their world. So, and just like we're struggling with, Tom, I love the technology fatigue. Because our clients are struggling with the same thing. They're trying to figure out, how do I do AI, and what's automation going to mean? If I'm in manufacturing or distribution, how the hell do I keep up with Amazon? And, I've got to find a way to stay in business competing against them. And, oh yeah, we got tariffs, yes, tariffs, no, tariffs, yes, tariff, no. What's going to happen to my business? So our clients need help resolving these problems. But the nice part about what we do in staffing is if we can get our people upskilled to ask better questions, everything is going to come back to a people problem. We just need to get them interested in their business problem that leads to the people discussion.
Guys, before I go to the rapid fire round, I want to give you both the opportunity. Anything that we haven't talked about as it relates to this perfect storm that we're in the heart of that you wish you said or you wish you got out of your mind before, again, I get you to our rapid fire round. Tom, I'll start with you.
Gosh, I mean, it's just there's so much to talk about. I would say that a couple of things. One, we have a very high turnover rate with salespeople and recruiters in the industry, and so any kind of management enhancement that you can do, because people leave managers, they don't leave companies, but just having good tenure, having a low turnover rate within your organization, that in and of itself speaks volume to prospects and clients and all that stuff. So, one thing we talked about is there are some ABCs, regardless of the perfect storm and all the stuff that's going out. Just anything you can do to upskill your managers is going to be a really, really good thing. And then start investigating consultative selling. There's a number of programs that are out there. And take a step. Find a rep that can get trained in consultative selling, and then or two, and let them loose, let them and see what happens. So those are two things that I would kind of more practical things.
Yeah, for me, it's get your head on straight. So take a deep breath. If you look at the Great Recession, the staffing industry dropped 30%. Yet out of that same period came the whole idea of the gig economy. So look at the value that was created out of companies that took the worst time in our industry. And it didn't happen from within our industry. It happened from tech companies. But there can be staffing companies saying, hey, I've got new ways to solve these problems. There's going to be fewer players in the industry this year and next year and maybe even the year after that. But for those that are adaptable, they can look and say, I see an abundance of opportunity here because I'm going to choose to look, act, and think differently. And that opportunity, that abundance mentality will enable you to focus on the top of the hill that you're trying to get to instead of being buried in the doom scrolling that we all live in on social media.
Do you want to land more clients and close more deals in 2025? Haley Marketing is offering big savings to help staffing firms like yours grow. Get $1,000 off targeted marketing campaigns, free tools to track your hottest leads, and no setup fees on services that help your company get found online. Plus, we'll even help you stay in touch with prospects for free. But you need to act fast. These deals end June 30th. You visit bit.ly/Bialy offer to find out more information. Again, that's bit.ly/Bialy offer for more information. All right, let's get back to the show. Tom, David, before I let you get out of here, I got to run you through our rapid fire round of just one question, because that was really good feedback and really good advice. You guys have both been on Take the Stage before, so there is going to be a bit of a disclaimer with both the questions here. Tom, one book that has fundamentally changed your life. Last time I asked you that question, you told me it was the Bible, so you cannot answer the same way.
I would say there was a book. There was a book by Rollo May. What was it? I can't. But anyway, there was a book by Rollo May. But there's an article called "The Power to See Oneself." The Power to See Oneself. Paul Dwyer, I think, it was the author. But that's a fantastic read.
David, and I think when you were on the show, you may have said Think and Grow Rich. If you didn't, I'm going to pretend you did. So one book that fundamentally changed your life that is not Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to use recency effect. So I saw a guy last week by the name of Pascal Finette, and he wrote a book called Disrupt Disruption, which I can only take credit for having read half of. But after seeing him walk through the concepts of the book live and in person, either go to YouTube and find Pascal Finette or buy Disrupt Disruption and learn how to spot the trends well in advance, because he shows you a framework for doing it.
Tom Kosnik, David Searns, appreciate you both for coming on the show and sharing your insights with us, my friends.
Thanks so much, Brad. This is awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Brad.